Night deepens across the Giza plateau, stretching like a long breath over the desert. The wind quiets to nothing, leaving only still air that carries the faint scent of dust and stone warmed by the day. Beneath the pale moon, the Great Pyramid rises from the sand with perfect composure, not as a ruin, not as a relic, but as something alive in its stillness. It holds its shape the way mountains hold their outline against the horizon. There is a kind of calm power in its silence, as if it has learned to speak only through patience. For nearly 5,000 years, people have told the same story. They say that Pharaoh Khufu, ruler of Egypt's 4th dynasty, ordered this monument to be built as his tomb. They say it was raised by tens of thousands of workers, perhaps slaves, perhaps craftsmen, laboring for decades beneath the desert sun. With copper chisels and ropes they carved, lifted and placed more than 2 million stones, each one fitting against the next with impossible precision. It is a story of perseverance, of human effort pushed to its limit. Yet, like all stories passed through centuries, it has grown smooth at the edges, more legend than record. In the moonlight, the stones themselves do not confirm it. They do not deny it either. They simply rest, indifferent to the centuries of voices that have tried to name them. Each block holds its own quiet memory, not of who built it, but of how long it has endured. The surface of the limestone gleams softly, like a mirror to the stars. From this distance, time seems to collapse. The pyramid looks exactly as it must have looked to the first travelers who saw it rise from the sand, to the priests who once walked beneath it, and to us now, breathing in its shadow. Perhaps this is what makes it so haunting. It does not argue, it does not explain, it simply remains vast and precise, its angles unbroken, its silence complete. The story of Khufu continues to echo, a story of kings and tombs, of power and devotion. But the pyramid itself belongs to none of that. It is not the voice of history, but its pause, the place where certainty dissolves and only wonder remains. As the night lingers and the stars drift above, the Great Pyramid stands untouched, a monument not to answers, but to endurance, to the endless patience of stone beneath an eternal sky. A story built on sand. When the light of morning first reaches the plateau, it moves softly across the surface of the Great Pyramid, tracing each weathered line of limestone. The warmth reveals not only the texture of the stone, but the patience of time itself. What seems solid, eternal, absolute, is in truth built on shifting foundations, not the pyramid, but the story told around it. For centuries, a single explanation has been passed from teacher to student, from scholar to book, as if repetition itself could make it true. Pharaoh Khufu, the great builder of the 4th dynasty, ordered this monument to be raised as his final resting place. Thousands of workers, armed with copper chisels, wooden sledges, and ropes, toiled for 20 years until it reached completion. It is a simple tale, dignified, complete, untroubled by doubt. Yet, as the morning grows brighter, its light falls through the cracks of certainty, and the story begins to shift, its edges softening into uncertainty. The deeper one looks, the more fragile this official version becomes. The evidence, so often cited, is faint, scattered like dust. Inscriptions that should have proclaimed Khufu's triumph are nowhere to be found. Fragments that might link him directly to the pyramid appear only centuries later, faint and uncertain. The monument itself, bare of hieroglyphs, absent of treasures, refuses to confirm what so many have insisted upon. The silence of the pyramid feels deliberate, as though its builders chose stillness over record, secrecy over pride. What we think we know is a structure of its own, a construction of words layered upon guesses, built as carefully and perhaps as delicately as the monument it describes. History, like the desert, is made of layers. Each generation lays down its version of truth, its own fine dust of interpretation. Beneath the surface, other meanings wait, buried but not lost. When the wind changes, a new outline emerges, being sometimes faint, sometimes startlingly clear. The story of the Great Pyramid is one such shape, revealed and hidden again, depending on where the light falls. Beneath the accepted narrative of pharaohs and tombs lies another possibility, that the monument serves a purpose beyond the reach of ordinary explanation, that it is not merely a symbol of death, but of something enduring, something that transcends time itself. At the center of this quiet tension between what is told and what is hidden stands a figure known to every student of Egypt, Dr. Zahi Hawass. For decades, his name has been woven into every discovery, every excavation, every whisper of the sands. Tall, passionate, unmistakable in his broad hat and firm gestures, he has been called Egypt's guardian of antiquities, its protector against carelessness and exploitation. Under his watch, the desert has been treated with both reverence and caution. He has decided who may dig, who may not, who may speak, and who must remain silent. His shadow falls across nearly every new finding. His authority shapes the story that the world receives. Yet beyond this visible power lies another quieter dynamic. With every restriction, every denied permit, every halted exploration, a certain stillness has been preserved. The sands remain undisturbed, their secrets waiting beneath layers of policy and protection. To some, this is wisdom, the careful guarding of fragile treasures from reckless hands. To others, it is a veil drawn too tightly, a reluctance that slows discovery in favor of control. Either way, the result is the same. Silence. A silence that covers not only the ruins, but the questions themselves. Under the morning sun, the Giza plateau stretches in all directions, a golden sea of dust and stone. Tourists wander the edges, snapping photographs, unaware that beneath their feet lie corridors not yet mapped, chambers untouched for thousands of years. The archaeologists who study these grounds move like caretakers through a fragile archive, brushing away grains of time while knowing that each stroke might erase as much as it reveals. For them, knowledge is a delicate balance between curiosity and preservation. For Hawass, that balance has become his life's work, deciding when to uncover and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain silent. It is easy to imagine him standing before the pyramid at dawn, the desert quiet around him, the air cool against his face. Behind his measured confidence lies an understanding few possess, that history is not merely found, it is managed. Every discovery carries weight, not only of science, but of politics, pride, and national identity. To open one door might mean closing another. To reveal too much might shift the story that has anchored a nation for generations. So the sands remain still, and in that stillness the past keeps its dignity. The morning brightens, shadows withdraw. The pyramid glows in full sunlight now, each block reflecting the pale gold of the sky. Around it, voices rise and fade, the hum of visitors mixing with the low wind. Yet beneath all this, something deeper hums. The faint rhythm of time continuing, unbroken, undisturbed. The story of the Great Pyramid is not one of simple construction or royal ambition. It is the story of patience, of endurance, of questions left deliberately unanswered. The more one seeks to expose its truth, the more the desert reminds us that not every mystery is meant to be solved. And so the light passes over the limestone once more, calm and unhurried, The surface gleams, revealing nothing, confirming nothing. Beneath it lie centuries of speculation, debate, and discovery, all fragile, all temporary. The pyramid, older than every word written about it, remains unmoved. Its silence holds everything we do not yet understand, a truth buried not by deception, but by time itself. As the day begins, the sands return to their stillness, and the story, uncertain, incomplete, and beautiful in its imperfection, continues to rest quietly, built upon the ever-shifting ground of history. The silent geometry. The air inside the Great Pyramid feels different, cooler and heavier than the desert beyond. It carries the dry scent of limestone, of dust that has not moved for centuries, of time itself resting quietly. The moment one steps from sunlight into shadow, sound fades away, replaced by a hush so complete that even breathing feels like an interruption. The first corridor slopes downward, narrow and steep, cut through solid stone with an accuracy that defies its age. Each angle, each junction aligns perfectly, as though the builders worked not by sight but by a sense of pure geometry. The walls, untouched by paint or carving, speak through proportion alone. No hieroglyphs, no praise for kings, no decoration at all. What endures here is not ornament but precision, a beauty so mathematical it feels like meditation. As you walk deeper, the temperature continues to fall, the light narrowing behind you until only a thin, golden trace remains at the entrance. The air grows still, unmoving, as though it has learned to breathe only once every 1,000 years. Each step forward is a descent into order. The corridors seem to guide rather than contain, every turn intentional, every plane measured against the stars. The pyramid is not random mass, but alignment incarnate, a monument set to the rhythm of celestial balance. Its entire form orients perfectly toward true north, deviating by only fractions of a degree. How such precision was achieved 5,000 years ago remains beyond full comprehension. The stone does not explain, it only exists. Silent, exact, calm. In the faint light of a small torch, the blocks that line the passage seem almost weightless, though each can weigh more than 80 tons. The joints between them are nearly invisible, as if the stone has merged with itself. You can trace a hand along the wall and feel nothing but continuity. No seam, no break, only the smooth patience of creation. Modern engineers have studied these surfaces for decades, attempting to replicate their perfection, yet even machines built for precision struggle to achieve such seamlessness. It is not brute strength that made this possible, but knowledge, a mastery of balance, force, and purpose so refined it borders on poetry. There is a sense, walking here, that the structure breathes. The narrow corridors expand into chambers, then narrow again like the inhale and exhale of something vast and living. The geometry itself feels aware. Corners meet not just in design but in meaning, a dialogue between human intention and cosmic pattern. The builders may have vanished into history, but their presence remains etched into every angle. The pyramid does not merely stand, it listens. Each block, each passageway carries the echo of silence, as though sound itself is being folded into the stone. The absence of writing is its own kind of language. Where other tombs shout of power and divinity, this one whispers of understanding. No images of gods, no prayers to the afterlife, no claims of ownership disturb these walls. The emptiness feels deliberate, almost reverent, as if the monument's purpose was not to proclaim, but to remember, to hold something wordless and eternal. In that restraint lies its mystery. The builders seem to know that perfection does not need to explain itself. A flawless equation requires no annotation. It simply is. Engineers and historians, standing in the dim heart of the pyramid, find themselves reduced to quiet observation. Instruments are drawn, numbers measured, theories compared, yet none of them truly fit. The stones, indifferent to interpretation, remain as they have always been. They are not impressed by our wonder. They do not react to our analysis. Their endurance is their response. Through centuries of debate, through generations of changing minds, the geometry has remained untouched, precise, balanced, absolute. Sometimes it feels as though the monument was built not for the living, but for time itself. The precision is too great, the patience too deep. Each block rests in relation to the others like a note in an endless chord. You can almost hear it if you stand still long enough. The low hum of symmetry, the pulse of equilibrium. The pyramid is less a structure than a statement. That order can exist beyond language, beyond culture, beyond even reason. It embodies silence, the way an ocean embodies depth, not as absence, but as infinite presence. As the torchlight moves, shadows stretch and collapse against the stone, revealing patterns that were never meant to be decorative. Every angle guides light as if rehearsed. The slope of each wall catches illumination briefly, then releases it. In this choreography of light and dark, one senses the purpose of its design. A geometry not meant to impress, but to endure. Here, form replaces faith. What was built needs no justification beyond its own perfection. The longer you stand within it, the more you realize that explanation itself feels unnecessary. Outside, centuries of sandstorms and sunlight have passed, but the interior remains untouched. The air still holds its coolness, its quiet. The walls, polished by time and absence, bear no trace of decay. Within this still heart of stone, there is no urgency, no progress, no decay, only balance. The pyramid does not resist time, it accommodates it. Like a vessel, it holds eternity without effort. Its silence is not emptiness, but completion. And so after the long walk back to daylight, you emerge into the brightness of the desert, changed in a subtle way. The noise of the world feels distant, less important. The geometry of the pyramid has entered you, its patience, its quiet, its refusal to hurry. You understand then that what endures is not mystery, but calm. The Great Pyramid does not hide meaning, it embodies it. It stands as a living equation of balance, a stillness so perfect that even after 5,000 years, it continues to hold the shape of silence. The memory of absence. The deeper you move into the pyramid, the more the world outside disappears. The sound of footsteps softens until even movement feels weightless. The air turns cooler, dense, almost liquid, carrying the faint taste of limestone and something older than air itself. Shadows gather and merge along the walls until the passage becomes a single thread of grey, stretching forward into stillness. It is not merely stone you move beneath, but time, vast, patient, unmoving. The silence here is complete. It does not merely fill the corridors, it defines them. Every surface, every inch of space seems built to preserve the sound of nothing. The walls are bare. Not a single symbol of praise or mourning interrupts their calm. In other tombs there are stories, carved prayers, scenes of offerings, gods guiding kings into eternity. Here there is only restraint. The surfaces do not ask to be read, they ask to be felt. Each wall breathes softly, exhaling the faint coolness of centuries. It is a silence that feels deliberate, not from neglect, but from design, as though the builders wanted this place to speak without words. There is no trace of Khufu, No hint of his presence or his passing, no coffin, no treasure, no scar of ritual remains. The pyramid seems to have been built not to commemorate, but to erase. The air thickens as you descend toward the heart of the structure. The floor slopes gently, the ceiling lowers, and the corridor narrows until space itself seems to press inward. The torchlight reveals only texture, fine tool marks, smooth stone, a faint shimmer where the air shifts. In other monuments, smoke from lamps would have stained the ceilings, leaving the faint residue of human presence. Here there is nothing. No soot, no discoloration, no sign that fire ever touched these walls. If light once shone here, it left without a trace. Even darkness, it seems, has been polished into permanence. The absence of evidence becomes its own form of revelation. It tells a story not of what was done, but of what was withheld. The pyramid feels less like a tomb than an equation, one solved perfectly and then sealed forever. The silence holds weight, a physical gravity that pulls thought into stillness. You begin to sense that this emptiness is not a void, but a choice. The builders understood the power of restraint, the meaning of what is not shown. To remove all signs of life, all marks of ownership, is to leave behind something purer, a geometry of intention unclouded by desire. It is difficult to imagine this space ever being occupied. There are no signs of burial, no remnants of human touch. The chambers do not mourn or celebrate, they simply exist, waiting. Some say they were once meant to hold a king's remains, others that they were constructed as instruments of purpose, perhaps ritual, perhaps astronomical, perhaps something beyond our understanding. Yet the stone refuses to confirm or deny. It remembers no movement, no flame, no voice. Its only memory is absence, shaped so completely that it becomes presence itself. Standing in the so-called king's chamber, one feels the symmetry close in like a slow tide. The granite walls shimmer under faint light, massive blocks placed so tightly that their seams vanish into shadow. The ceiling rises above, built of beams so heavy they seem to defy gravity, yet balanced as if by thought rather than force. There is nothing here but a single granite box, lidless, hollow, unadorned. It waits in the center of the room, both ordinary and sacred in its simplicity. For thousands of years, people have stood before it and wondered who lay here, if anyone at all. But the box, like the chamber, offers no reply. Its silence is unbroken, its purpose erased by time. In this stillness, the senses sharpen. You can hear the faint echo of your own heartbeat against the stone, a sound that feels intrusive, almost disrespectful. The air holds steady, neither warm nor cold, neither alive nor dead. It is as though the pyramid maintains its own equilibrium, an eternal pause between creation and decay. The longer you remain, the more the structure seems to blur the boundary between presence and emptiness. The corridors behind you fade from memory. The outside world feels distant, imaginary. Here, only the geometry remains precise and calm, untouched by all that came after. Perhaps that is the secret, that the pyramid was not built to hold a body, but to hold silence itself. Its builders, whoever they were, created a vessel so perfect that it could contain absence without collapsing. The structure endures not because of what lies within, but because of what was never placed there. It stands as the embodiment of patience, a form stripped of every distraction, a monument to what is not said. Its meaning, if it has one, lies in the refusal to explain. It teaches that purpose can exist without record, that permanence does not require proof. As you turn to leave, the light of the torch wavers against the smooth surfaces, casting gentle ripples that seem to move like breath. Each step upward feels like returning from another world. Not the world of the dead, but of pure form, where thought has been reduced to balance and memory to stillness. The pyramid's interior lingers within you, not as fear or awe, but as calm. The absence you felt there follows quietly, like a slow rhythm under your skin. When you emerge back into daylight, the sun feels sharp, the air wide and living again. Behind you, the pyramid remains unchanged, its shadows still resting on the sand. Within its core, the silence continues, untouched by centuries, unmoved by curiosity. It holds the cool breath of eternity, a place where the past and the present dissolve into one long moment of stillness. And though it contains nothing, it somehow holds everything, the measure of patience, the discipline of creation, and the quiet reminder that even emptiness, when perfectly shaped, can endure forever. Top of form. The door beneath the stone. In the early 1990s, the stillness inside the Great Pyramid was disturbed not by footsteps or tools, but by the slow hum of a small machine. Deep within the Queen's chamber, where the air sits heavy and unmoving, an engineer named Rudolf Gantenbrink guided a robotic camera into one of the narrow shafts that vanish into darkness. The tunnel was so tight no human could enter, a passage carved with intention yet untouched for thousands of years. The robot advanced inch by inch, its light spilling over smooth limestone walls that curved in silence. Dust stirred and floated, catching the beam like ancient breath. The deeper it went, the quieter everything seemed to become, until even the sound of the machine blended into the stillness that had ruled these corridors since time began. After several meters of slow descent, the robot stopped. Its lens met a polished slab of stone, unlike anything seen before inside the pyramid. A perfect limestone door, sealed and unmoving, with two small copper handles fixed to its surface. They were delicate, precise, and strangely elegant. No hieroglyphs marked them, no inscription claimed them. The door stood there, solitary and deliberate, deep within a shaft that led nowhere. The world above paused in collective fascination. A door inside a monument believed to be already complete, a boundary hidden within another. It was as if the pyramid, after thousands of years of silence, had chosen this moment to breathe again, to let the faintest whisper of mystery escape, only to close once more. For archaeologists and engineers alike, the discovery carried a quiet gravity. It suggested that within the Great Pyramid, a structure mapped, measured, and studied more than any other on Earth, there still existed something unknown, something untouched. The footage of the door spread quickly, and with it came the wonder of possibility. What lay beyond that sealed panel? Was it symbolic or structural, or perhaps the entrance to an undiscovered chamber? Yet amid the excitement, the pyramid remained unmoved. It gave only what it wished to reveal, and then turned back into stillness. Weeks passed. Scientists examined the footage, replaying each frame in slow motion, tracing every contour of the copper handles. The craftsmanship was undeniable. Clean lines, smooth surfaces, symmetry exact down to the millimeter. No evidence of crude tools or hurried work could be seen. Whoever had sealed the door had done so with the same precision that defined the entire monument. The shaft itself, perfectly angled, suggested purpose, though what purpose remained uncertain. The more the engineers studied it, the more they sensed restraint. The pyramid seemed to say, "Not yet." For years the mystery endured. The door stayed closed. The shaft waited in silence. a narrow throat of stone connecting the visible to the unseen. In the still air beneath tons of rock, the robot's faint tracks remained, the last disturbance in a place untouched since the dawn of civilization. The discovery lingered like a half-remembered dream, proof that even after centuries of excavation and study, the pyramid could still surprise. It reminded the world that the past does not surrender itself easily, and that patience is often the only tool fit for ancient things. Eventually, another team returned, this time with better instruments and even gentler hands. The small robot crept forward once more, carrying a fine drill capable of piercing the stone without breaking it. When the hole was finally made, the lens peered through into the darkness beyond and saw another wall. A second slab of limestone, as smooth and unbroken as the first, sealed just beyond. Whatever waited behind it remained hidden, untouched, perhaps intentionally so. The moment carried a strange beauty, one mystery giving way not to revelation, but to another layer of silence. Speculation rose again, as it always does. Some believed the door led to a symbolic passage, a channel meant to connect the chamber to the stars. Others thought it concealed a hidden vault, or perhaps a message left by the builders for those who would come millennia later. Yet the truth, quiet and unmoving, stayed sealed behind the second wall. The Great Pyramid had revealed enough to remind humanity of its limits, and then, as always, had withdrawn. It is the way of old things to show only fragments, to preserve their dignity through secrecy. Today, the limestone door remains undisturbed, the copper handles dulled by time. Decades have passed since Gantenbrink's first expedition, yet the pyramid still holds its silence. The air within that shaft has not changed. The same dust that floated in the robot's light still rests on the same stone. The world has moved forward, technologies have evolved, theories have multiplied, but the pyramid's heart remains unaltered, patient, complete. It waits not for discovery, but for understanding, and perhaps that is not the same thing. If one listens closely to the story of that door, there is a lesson folded inside it. Some mysteries are not meant to be broken open, they exist to remind us of humility. The pyramid, after all, has stood for nearly 5 millennia without explanation, surviving not because it was understood, but because it was respected. The little door, with its copper fittings and seamless surface, continues that tradition. It protects the unknown, not through force, but through grace, by being exactly what it is and nothing more. And so the story ends where it began, in the stillness beneath the stone. The robot rests now, the images archived, the passage sealed once again in memory. Yet for those who saw it, who watched the beam of artificial light touch that perfect surface for the first time, the image never fades. It becomes part of a larger truth, that within the quiet geometry of the Great Pyramid, the unknown still breathes softly, waiting for those who approach not with tools, but with patience. The Chamber of Light. Years passed before anyone returned to the narrow shaft that ended in silence. The world above had moved on, but inside the pyramid, time stood still. The air within those stone tunnels remained untouched, heavy with the same quiet that had lingered for thousands of years. When explorers finally came again, they brought new instruments, smaller, steadier, more patient than before. Their goal was not conquest, not excavation, but understanding. They approached the limestone door as one might approach a sleeping creature, careful not to wake it. A fine drill pressed gently into the polished surface, carving a single narrow hole no wider than a finger. Through it, a thin cable slipped into the dark, carrying a camera small enough to fit through the breadth of the ancient stone. Its light moved softly, revealing what lay beyond. And there it was, another wall, smooth as the first, sealed as if in reflection. No chamber, no corridor, no space between. Just a second door, identical and patient, resting behind the first. The robot stopped there, unable to move further, and the world paused again. Two doors, one behind another, dividing emptiness from emptiness. What purpose could such silence serve? The explorers did not answer. They simply withdrew, leaving the pyramid to its secrecy. The shafts closed once more, filled not with revelation, but with the same quiet that had been there all along. In that stillness, the mystery deepened, not through what was found, but through what remained untouched. Time continued its slow drift. Seasons turned across the desert. Sand covered the tracks of those who had come and gone. Decades after Gantenbrink's first discovery, a new generation of scientists returned, not to touch, but to see. They brought instruments that required no drills, no intrusion, no disturbance of the air that had slept for millennia. They came not with torches, but with light that could pass through stone itself. In 2017, using muon radiography, an elegant method that reads the paths of cosmic particles, they scanned the pyramid's vast interior. Invisible waves traveled through the monument, mapping density, mass, and emptiness. What they found was not what they expected. Hidden high above the Grand Gallery, they detected a space, an enormous void, suspended within the structure like a heartbeat between walls. It was vast and yet unreachable, its purpose unknown. No corridors led to it, no entrance could be found. It existed in isolation, as if deliberately hidden from both history and discovery. The scientists watched their readings form into outlines on the screen, a ghostly chamber taking shape where none should be. For a moment, the pyramid seemed to breathe again. The lines glowed faintly, forming the contour of an unseen space that had waited quietly through every age of human civilization. When the measurements were complete, the instruments fell silent. The images faded from the screens, leaving behind only the thought of what might exist within that hollow of air and stone. There was no gold, no artifact, no secret corridor, only absence, defined and preserved. Yet that absence felt deliberate, like a held breath. Some said the void was a relic of construction, an unintended gap left by the builders. Others believed it to be intentional, perhaps symbolic, a space meant to balance the weight of the pyramid or to serve as a silent room for eternity itself. Whatever the explanation, it remained beyond reach, protected not by barriers, but by the patience of the ages. In the quiet that followed, something subtle changed. For centuries, exploration had meant breaking through, uncovering, revealing, but this new discovery required only light and restraint. The scientists had seen into the heart of the pyramid without disturbing a single grain of sand. It was as though the monument had allowed them a glimpse, a brief permission to witness its hidden interior, and then closed again, satisfied. No one could enter that void, yet everyone could imagine it. Its emptiness became a symbol of endurance, a reminder that even in a world obsessed with uncovering, there are places meant only to be seen, not touched. Above the desert, night fell again, and the pyramid returned to its original state, silent, immutable, infinite in its calm. The wind crossed its edges, smoothing the air with the same rhythm it had kept for 5,000 years. Beneath the surface, the hidden chamber remained unseen, its outlines preserved in the faint language of cosmic light. It waited without impatience, without memory. It had no need for purpose or discovery. Its very existence was enough. The explorers, having seen what no one had seen before, left the site quietly. There was no celebration, no declaration of victory. Instead, there was a strange peace, as if the act of seeing had been enough. The void above the Grand Gallery joined the long list of the pyramid's silent features, another line in a story written not in words but in endurance. The Great Pyramid once again had spoken through stillness. Back in laboratories across the world, scientists studied the data, building models, running simulations, trying to name what they had found. But the more they analyzed, the more the discoveries seemed to resist explanation. Every theory dissolved into quiet contradiction. Some called it a structural gap, others a hidden chamber of symbolic design. Yet beneath all reasoning lay the same truth. The void was real, and its mystery intact. Like a mirror reflecting the limits of human certainty, it reminded them that knowledge, no matter how advanced, still bends before the unknown. And so the hidden chamber of light remains, a room that cannot be reached, a space that cannot be filled. It belongs not to pharaohs or archaeologists, but to the timeless balance of the pyramid itself. It rests above the Grand Gallery like a memory suspended between breath and silence. There, light and stone coexist, unseen yet inseparable. And though its walls have never been touched, its presence can be felt as a quiet assurance that even within the most studied monument on earth, mystery still survives, whole and undiminished, patient as the desert and eternal as the stars above. The patience of stone. Beyond the breath of midnight, the Great Pyramid sinks into its truest quiet. The desert air cools until it feels weightless, and the stars above lower themselves as if listening. Their light touches each face of the stone with the faintest shimmer, gliding over corners that have not changed since the dawn of written memory. Every block carries the warmth of 1,000 vanished suns, yet holds none of their fire, only the echo of it, contained and calm. The wind crosses the plateau without sound, brushing the sand into slow, deliberate patterns that vanish as quickly as they form. Inside, the air does not stir. The corridors remain in perfect balance, their walls neither breathing nor aging. The sealed doors hold their patience. The hidden chamber above the Grand Gallery lies untouched, a still heart beating beneath tons of stone. The pyramid's patience is not born of idleness, it is an act of intention. The stillness of something that knows endurance more deeply than time itself. Centuries pass as the surface absorbs the weight of sunlight, storms, and human wonder. Empires rise, speak its name, build stories around its shadow, and then dissolve into dust that gathers again at its base. Yet the pyramid endures untroubled by glory or ruin. It has learned to remain, to outlast the language of kings and the ambitions of ages. What to us seems permanence is, to the pyramid, only a quiet breath. Its geometry is not decoration, but devotion, an alignment so perfect that it captures the calm of the stars and holds it forever still. In this endless stillness, one begins to feel that the monument holds not history, but harmony. The angles that meet the horizon, the edges that mirror the heavens, all speak in a language beyond the reach of sound. The hidden void above the gallery, that vast chamber of air and absence, belongs to the same design. It is the pause that completes the sentence, the silence that gives shape to sound. The builders, whoever they were, seemed to understand that space itself was sacred, that the world needs emptiness in order to remain whole. They left not just structure, but breath, not just weight, but balance. Absence, to them, was not loss, it was precision. Without shadow, there can be no light. Without silence, no song. As the night drifts toward its deepest hour, the pyramid seems to draw the desert inward. The air grows denser, yet softer. The sand no longer moves. A chill spreads through the plateau, settling over the stones like a veil. The stars above turn slowly, returning to constellations that once guided ancient eyes. Perhaps they look the same now as they did to those who stood here millennia ago, laying the first foundations. The pyramid, unchanging, reflects that same sky, a mirror of eternity folded into earth. For those who once scanned it with light from distant particles, mapping its hidden spaces without a single touch, perhaps this is what they sensed, a rhythm that cannot be measured, an order that remains even when unseen. The pyramid does not resist understanding, it absorbs it. Each attempt to explain its perfection becomes part of its calm. Knowledge, no matter how advanced, seems to quiet itself in its presence. What equations describe the stones embody? They reveal nothing, yet they lack nothing. It is not the unknown that defines them, but the completeness of stillness. To stand before the pyramid at this hour is to feel that silence can be a truth as full as any discovery. Its mystery does not demand to be solved, it invites to be shared, to be felt, slowly, like breath in sleep. The longer one remains, the more the boundary between monument and night begins to blur. The air hums faintly, the earth breathes low, and the pyramid feels less like a structure than a state of being. It becomes the desert's heartbeat, slow, measured, eternal. The stones hum softly in their weight, holding the sound of time itself turned inward. The lines that define its shape seem to vanish into darkness, then reappear under starlight, as though the pyramid itself breathes between visibility and dream. In its patience lies an unspoken lesson, that endurance needs no witness, and beauty no explanation. When dawn is still distant, and the world seems to hold its breath, the pyramid stands alone in its calm perfection. Nothing stirs within, nothing breaks the geometry of silence. The corridors are asleep, the hidden chamber untouched, the sealed doors resting in their eternal weight. Around it, the desert folds like an ocean of shadow, endless and still. The wind has long since gone quiet, but the air is not empty. It vibrates faintly, filled with something invisible, the presence of time itself, steady and indifferent. The Great Pyramid endures not as a relic of the past, but as a reminder of how stillness can last longer than empires, how silence can hold meaning long after words have turned to sand. In that realization lies peace. The pyramid's patience is not a mystery to be solved, but a mirror for our own restless hearts. It shows that not every truth must move, not every secret must speak. Some are meant to rest, perfectly balanced, beneath the slow turning of the stars. The Great Pyramid does not wait to be understood. It has already found its understanding, in stillness, in silence, in the long and quiet patience of stone. Top of form, the long breath of time. By the deep hours of the night, when the desert lies between thought and sleep, the Great Pyramid seems lighter than air, as if its weight has drifted upward into the stars. The last heat of the day still hums faintly within the stone, escaping into the cool sky in slow, invisible waves. Above, the Milky Way curves like a pale river of dust, flowing quietly across the darkness, touching the pyramid's apex, as it has for thousands of years. No lamp flickers, no sound breaks the horizon, even the wind has grown still, leaving the air smooth and hollow. From a distance, the pyramid no longer looks like a building, but like an idea, a single, immense thought that the earth once formed in perfect stillness and has chosen to keep. Around its base, the sand shifts softly, reshaping its edges, tracing the same paths it has followed since before history began. Beneath that quiet surface lies another world, sealed corridors, hidden chambers, narrow shafts filled with air that has not moved in millennia. It lingers there, untouched, holding the faint scent of time before decay, before breath, before us. There are no explorers now, no cameras, no whispers of discovery. The noise of curiosity has faded into the endless hum of the desert. The pyramid stands alone again, wrapped in the same silence that surrounded it at its birth. Even the memory of human presence feels distant, as if the act of exploring it belonged to another species, another age. What remains is the rhythm of something far older, the slow pulse of being itself. The pyramid no longer feels man-made, it feels like it grew here, the way dunes grow, shaped by the same patient geometry that guides wind and shadow. It is a mountain not born of chaos, but of intention, carved by alignment, sustained by balance. It belongs to no one now, not the pharaohs who once claimed it, not the scientists who studied it, not the myths that formed around its silence. It belongs to the planet itself, to the long, measured breath of time. Inside, the air remains unbroken. Every passage holds a perfect stillness, as if listening. Every block of stone seems to hum faintly with the same frequency as the stars. The sealed doors, the unreachable void above the grand gallery, the corridors that end without explanation, all of it feels deliberate, as though silence itself was part of the design. Perhaps this is what the builders understood, that to endure is not to resist but to rest, that the truest strength lies in not moving at all. What they built was not just a monument, but a rhythm, a conversation between matter and emptiness, between presence and patience. The pyramid does not store knowledge in writing or treasure, it stores it in balance. It teaches that absence can be meaning, that stillness can be full. If one were to stand here long enough, not for hours but for lifetimes, understanding might come, not as revelation, but as surrender. The pyramid does not explain, it does not demand belief, it simply is, and through its being it speaks quietly. What endures is not power, nor desire, nor glory, but harmony. It survives because it asks for nothing. It aligns with the stars not to rule over them, but to mirror them. Its face turns toward eternity, and eternity turns back. Between them lies the long breath of time, moving so slowly it feels like rest. The Great Pyramid is not the echo of a civilization, it is the pause that civilization leaves behind. The space between thought and memory. Outside, the desert mirrors its calm. The dunes, vast and faceless, stretch to every horizon, their forms changing but never breaking the silence. The air feels weightless now, filled only with distance. The stars move so slowly that their motion cannot be seen, only sensed, a quiet drifting of light across infinity. Somewhere far above, the faint shimmer of cosmic dust passes through the void, touching nothing, altering nothing. It is the same stillness that exists within the pyramid, a stillness so perfect it becomes its own form of movement. The more one looks, the more the boundaries between stone and night begin to fade. The pyramid becomes sky, the sky becomes stone. The two are no longer separate, only parts of one vast design. As dawn begins its patient return, the world stirs but does not yet wake. A thin edge of light appears at the horizon, too faint to color the sand, too soft to cast shadow. It touches the apex first, a single point of gold against the grey. Slowly, the light expands, moving down the face of the limestone like a hand brushing dust from memory. The pyramid brightens, but only slightly. It does not shimmer or blaze. It simply reappears, as if the night has released it. For a few moments, it glows with a quiet warmth, a reflection of a sun that has risen and fallen here for 50 centuries without pause. The wind begins to move again, gentle and deliberate, tracing lines across the sand that vanish as soon as they form. It gathers around the pyramid's base, whispering against the stone, before passing on into the distance. It carries no sound, no scent, only the calm of the place it touched. The pyramid exhales its stillness into the morning. The air seems cleaner, the desert softer, as though the entire plateau has breathed with it. The light widens, the shadows retreat, and once more the pyramid becomes part of the living day, the same as it ever was. The story continues, but it has no beginning and no end. The Great Pyramid stands as it always has, not a riddle to be solved, but a lesson in endurance. It breathes the long breath of time, inhaling the ages, exhaling peace. Empires will rise again and fall again, and the sands will shift, and the stars will tilt slightly in their paths, and still it will remain, patient, unmoved, complete. The air within will stay untouched, the chambers sealed, the hidden void silent. And when all else fades, the pyramid will still hold its shape against the sky, reminding those who look upon it that the greatest strength lies not in conquest, but in stillness. When the desert finally brightens fully, the world forgets its night of reflection, but the pyramid does not forget. It keeps the memory of quiet, the pulse of balance, the hum of eternity beneath its skin. And in that calm endurance it teaches again that time itself breathes slowly, and that what is truly eternal does not demand to be known. It simply endures, top of form, bottom of form, bottom of form. Night settles once more over the desert, soft as breath against the ancient stone. The wind drifts around the pyramid's edges, carrying grains of sand that have circled this monument since before memory began. Inside, the air remains untouched, still balanced, perfectly indifferent to time. The chambers rest in their silence, the shafts remain sealed, and somewhere above, the hidden void breathes in patience, holding the weight of centuries with effortless calm. Nothing stirs within those walls, yet everything endures. The scientists have gone, the machines are quiet, and the pyramid returns to itself. Its geometry sleeps again beneath the stars, unchanged by discovery. What was seen through light now retreats into darkness, and what was measured by numbers fades into mystery. In the hush of the plateau, there is no sound but the low sigh of wind, and no movement but the shifting constellations above. The Great Pyramid stands exactly as it always has, precise, immense, unyielding, and somehow alive in its stillness. In this calm, the idea of knowing loses its urgency. The doors remain closed, the void remains unseen, and yet the presence of both feels complete. The pyramid does not hide to provoke curiosity. It hides because silence is its language. It does not guard treasure but balance. It does not promise revelation, only endurance. Every line, every shadow, every unseen chamber is part of the same unbroken rhythm, a pattern beyond comprehension, yet full of peace. And so, as the night deepens, the pyramid becomes part of the darkness around it, a mountain of memory, a shape of stillness. The stars drift above its peak, the sands move softly below, and in between, the air holds the soundless pulse of time. The Great Pyramid does not explain itself. It simply continues. Its mysteries remain intact, not as questions, but as quiet affirmations that some things are meant to stay beyond reach. The light fades, the desert breathes, and the story returns to silence. Within that silence, the pyramid endures, not waiting, not revealing, just being. A monument to patience, to balance, to the enduring truth that even in a world of endless discovery, the greatest wonder may still lie in what chooses not to be found.